So, what's the real difference between a great business idea and a venture that actually changes the world? It's definitely not just about luck. Turns out there's a kind of blueprint, a path that successful entrepreneurs tend to follow. And in this explainer, we're going to break that blueprint down piece by piece.
Okay, first things first, we need to get one thing straight. You've got your small business owner. They create a business to sustain their life, pay the bills. And that's amazing. But an entrepreneur? That's a whole different breed. They're not just looking to sustain. They are absolutely driven to take an opportunity and see it through to its maximum potential. And that drive brings us to our first section, the spark. What is it that really makes up this mindset? What's going on in the head of a true entrepreneur? Well, when you boil it all down, an entrepreneur is someone who has the skill, sure, but more importantly, they've got the sheer determination to grab an opportunity and just not let go. They ride out all the highs and the lows. They become the energy source for the whole organization, knowing when to drop an idea that isn't working, but having the grit to just keep pushing forward no matter what. But all that determination is useless without a great idea to focus on. So that brings us to the next stage, the hunt. You see, every great venture starts by finding the right opportunity. So the big question is, where are these things actually hiding?
Well, the first place to look is in a gap between demand and supply. Let's take the vegetable market in India as an example. One season, there's a huge surplus and prices just crash. The next, there's a shortage and prices go through the roof. An entrepreneur doesn't see a problem there, they see an opportunity. Maybe for a packaging solution that can store the extra supply and bring stability to the whole market.
Second, and this is the one we all think of, is the brand new idea, the big innovation. But you know, it doesn't have to be some earth-shattering invention. Think about liquid mosquito repellents. We already had repellents, right? But creating one that was liquid and could last for a whole month, that was a totally new format, and it was a complete game changer.
A third, and maybe my favorite source of opportunity, is just stuff that's not very good, In places with unreliable power, inverters are essential, but for the longest time, they were just awful. So, a scientist got fed up and decided to build a better one. Finding something people desperately need, but the current version stinks, that is a massive opportunity.
And finally, number 4, fixing a broken process. If the way we do something right now is just clunky, inefficient, or super frustrating for the customer, boom, there's your opening. The best example has to be the taxi industry. Remember calling a dispatch and just waiting? App-based services didn't invent cars. They just fixed the ridiculous booking system, and they created enormous value doing it.
Okay, so you found your opportunity. Now what? Well, you've got to actually build something. This leads us to the next critical phase, the build. What are the parts you need to power the engine that turns a great idea into a real company?
It really boils down to 3 essential ingredients. Number 1, you need deep expertise in your field. This is how you build a prototype and prove your concept actually works. Number 2, you need access to capital. Money is the fuel. And number 3, you have to be able to scale, to take that initial success and blow it up to a massive level. If you're missing any one of these 3, even the best ideas in the world can just grind to a halt.
Now, this is all sounding pretty straightforward, but let's be real. The path of an entrepreneur is more like running a gauntlet. It's filled with traps and pitfalls that are designed to take you out.
Which begs the really important question. If so many smart people start out with fantastic ideas, why do the vast majority of these ventures just fizzle out? Well, it usually comes down to a few common culprits. First, someone else comes along with a better idea that just makes yours obsolete. Second is just bad execution. Quality control goes down the drain, or you're just not managing the day-to-day effectively. Third, and this is a big one, you run out of money at the wrong time. And finally, one that most people don't think about, you don't have a plan for who takes over, so the venture dies when the founder leaves. So, if you can somehow navigate that gauntlet, what does the journey actually feel like? This takes us to our last section, the payoff. And trust me, it's usually much, much further down the road than most people think. And this slide says it all. This is the famous hockey stick curve. You start and then you go down. For the first year, maybe 3, maybe even 5 years, you could be losing money, hearing no all the time, just fighting to survive. And look, this isn't just about the bank account. It's a psychological battle. It's where the self-doubt kicks in and the pressure is just immense. Honestly, this is where most ventures die. Not because the idea was bad, but because the founder's spirit just gets crushed. But if you can push through that dip, you eventually hit an inflection point. And that's when the real growth, the explosion, finally happens.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? A venture only truly succeeds when all those pitfalls we talked about have been overcome, and when the entrepreneur has the raw, stubborn tenacity to sustain not just the business, but themselves through that long, brutal journey in the valley. So why should we all care about this? Because when entrepreneurs pull this off, they do more than just build a company. They are a critical engine for any country's economy. They create new revenue, they drive new technologies, and they create new jobs. They literally make the whole system better.
So there you have it, the blueprint. From that initial spark, to hunting the opportunity, to surviving the gauntlet, and finally reaching the payoff. We've laid out the map. The only question left is, where's your opportunity hiding?